You're listening to the 23 Personnel Podcast, a Texas Tech athletics podcast where food and sports clash at the goal line. Here are your hosts, Spencer and Michael.
All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the 23 Personnel Podcast. This is your host, Spencer, joined by Michael. Michael, what's up, man?
I'm ready to talk some football.
Let's do it.
It's good. It's good coming off a win, coming off a home Big 12 win, and rolling into the first time Texas Tech has played Cincinnati since. Oh, I have this in the notes. Winsipedia actually gave me an error when I tried to find this earlier on, but it was mentioned in the Texas Tech official notes. So this is only the second meeting ever between the Red Raiders and Bearcats on the gridiron. And that one matchup was in 1968 at Jones AT&T Stadium. And not only have we only played them once, but it ended in a tie. It was a 10-10 tie. So this is for all the marbles this Saturday. I don't want to get anyone too hyped up. Yes, we haven't played Cincinnati since a man landed on the moon. But this is a new era.
For those that are Kirby Hocutt dislikers, one Cliff Kingsbury made a very direct request to get Cincinnati on the schedule, and he failed to do it.
He got around to it.
Conference.
Yeah, it just took him a little bit.
Wait, so is this Hocutt making good on that by bringing them in the conference? You saying it was him?
If anything, if we've learned anything in the last 4 years, Spencer, it's how hard it is to get a football team on the schedule. So this has been in the works since December 2012. It's just taken that long for it to get there because these things are written in stone.
The 2020 football season tells us nothing about how quickly these games can get scheduled, but
much less whatever the hell's going on in the Pac something and the Mountain West and the
how many schools are there now in the Pac-12? 4, 6?
I think
8?
they're up to 6. They might have a 6. They should just be called the 6-pack.
And what was with the American saying like this is the American?
That's
like, you're not getting us.
Actually, we've tried to be called the big angry American. I think they actually are just the angry American. They're not so big though.
Y'all, if you're not joining us Tuesday nights on the YouTubes, you're missing out. We stream every week. Roy is already in here chatting us up. You too can join us live as we do this. But Roy says Cliff handled Cincinnati last night. He did as the offensive coordinator for the Washington Commanders. He made them look silly. Now, there was a time Cincinnati was coming back a little bit, was making a little pucker worthy, but
not Kingsbury's problem.
For stretches of that
step
game,
up defensive coordinator.
Kingsbury's unit looked pretty dang good. And I noticed this in the game, and like it made me think back. So he called a jumbo, a heavy package where they brought in an extra tackle and he threw to him. I was like, he kind of likes that. He likes bringing an extra lineman and throwing to that lineman because he did it at Texas Tech. Last Sunrise says, hello, what's up, fellas? Yeah, I think he just likes calling plays for unconventional skill players. Let's put it that way.
The linemen often have the best hands on the team.
They have their glove game on point. That's something. Tonight, we will do a final recap on Arizona State. We will do a preview for Cincinnati. We will talk about, we have a Tahj time tracker feature we want to introduce. for those keeping up with Mr. Brooks and his run towards school history. Um, we will obviously do our preview as we do look at the Big 12 schedule this weekend. Um, and then basketball, Michael. I know we're 6 weeks, almost exactly 6 weeks out from game one. But the non-conference schedule was officially released. We knew who we were playing, kind of. Um, but now we've got that. Um, another another content team out there in the Texas Tech athletics universe released or put together an update, a list of where all former 16 players that are still playing college basketball, where they will be this season. We'll run through that really quickly just because I think some of those are interesting. And of course, wrap up with what did we learn? Um, Michael, let's let's talk football. Let's do the round football, the football first, as we tend to do, and then get to the oblong pigskin.
Yeah.
So, what do we have on the Red Raider soccer team?
So since we last met and mentioned soccer, they've gone 2-0 in Big 12 play, and one of them on the road. So Thursday, Texas Tech hosted Utah, welcomed Utah to the conference, beat them 2-0 here at John Walker Soccer Complex. Both goals were scored within 3 minutes of each other at the 70 and 72 or 73-minute mark. So a lot of shots, a lot of close calls, except for that short window where both goals were scored. I'm having trouble saying the word goals. Sunday up,
Goals.
Sunday up at Oklahoma State. They also won by the same score of 2-0, 2-0, 2-0, as their British soccer announcer said, which I didn't get to the chance to watch as much of this game as I wanted to, but man, having a British guy announce a soccer game, it's a different feel, and I mean it in the best way.
I mean, it calls out Ian Dark. Man, we need him.
Yeah.
He's like the token English announcer for American soccer.
So since
So
because of those two wins, Texas Tech is now 7-2-1 with that one tie, uh, opening Big 12 play versus TCU, I believe, and also because of that tie, or not because of it, but coincidentally, they are tied for second with TCU.
mm,
I believe it's Colorado. Oh, and I'm blanking. Colorado is splitting first place with another team, and then Tech and TCU are tied for second right now. And as
when
always,
that,
if you want more soccer content, check out Seeing Scarlet. They will go way more in depth and have interviews with players, coaches, and really get into the weeds of how these games are going.
yeah, upcoming schedule. They have two road games this week. Thursday at Kansas State, Sunday at Houston. 7 p.m. first touch on Thursday, 1 p.m. on Sunday. All right. Let's talk some pigskin, Michael. Let's talk some football. Injury report updates. Positive here. No new names added to the out for the season list.
Yes.
And a guy shifted off of the out list for Cincinnati to questionable. So questionable on this list, Braylon Lux. You saw him; he did not play this past weekend. You got Macho Stevenson, his first career start in his place. Jordan Brown listed as questionable with shoulder. Charles Esters is the guy that has been elevated for out to questionable with a thigh injury to Braylon Carroll, defensive lineman. Josh Kelly, you saw a little bit. He was limited and hobbled. Hopefully that gets cleared up before this weekend. Linebacker Ben Roberts, same thing. Oh, and Amir Washington, same thing. You did see Harvey Dyson get his first snaps of the season this weekend, this past weekend versus Arizona State. Um, in terms of health, like he looked like he was just getting back into it. There was a stretch where he was moving a little gingerly, and then went down, but not bad enough to be listed as questionable. I don't like to see Amir Washington on this list, or Ben Roberts, or Josh Kelly. But um, yeah, that's your injury update for week 5. Preview coming into Cincinnati. So let's talk week 4, wrap up with Arizona State. One, um, I don't know why it's taken me 5 weeks to think about this, but we're going to be keeping a track on Tahj time, on his run towards taking over as the program leader and rushing yards. This past week, he did move up from 6th place all time to 5th. He overtook DeAndre Washington by 20 yards. So Tahj is now at number 5 with 3,431. DeAndre Washington finished at 3,411. He's got 114 yards ahead of him to reach Bam Morris, which is about what he's been doing the past few games that he's been playing. At least he did 117 this past weekend. So it's not out of the question that he moves up a spot again this weekend. 225 until he hits Ricky Williams. So he could leap from 6th to 5th to 4th, even up to 3rd in 3 consecutive weeks, depending on how he plays and his health. Then there's a little bit of a gap there between he and James Gray. Gray is sitting at 4,066 yards, which is currently 635 yards ahead of Tahj Brooks and 410 ahead of 3rd place Ricky Williams. So there'd be a little bit of a break there. And then 704 until he eclipses Byron Hanspard for number 1. So far in the season, 71 carries, 379 yards at 5.3 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns. With 7 games to go, he needs to average 100.6 yards per game. This is just assuming a 12-game season. And he will need 133 carries if the 5.3 yards per carry holds. Last season, I think he got like 290. This puts him at 200. So it's within reach. So there you go. Just under 400 yards through 4 games, although he's only played 3 with 7 to go. Needs 100.6 yards per game. Moving on.
We'll get to Cincy's run defense later, but there's a decent chance, or maybe not decent, but there's a chance that Tahj Brooks could move up another notch after this week. We'll see. It's not out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah. Do you follow Stats of War, Parker Fleming on Twitter, Michael?
I do, and I'll be honest with you, I've never understood this graph, so please explain it to me.
Okay, so he publishes or tweets out the did we really get beat that bad? And what it is, it's a measure of net success rates, and how that looks against margin of victory. So the further apart they are is the margin of victory. Sorry, nope. Is the difference in success rate between the two teams.
Meaning what?
You tell me. No, it was basically with the expected, like, did you do what you were expected to do?
Okay.
He even, like, in a follow-up tweet to tweeting this out, he did say even like he expected Texas Tech to be not this far apart from Arizona State, but it was a combination of how Texas Tech offense plays versus the defense they were playing. So you'll see Texas Tech is almost on the far left-hand side, which is a bad beat for Arizona State. Almost indicating that, we may not have should have won this game. And then on the far right-hand side, you've got, Penn State over Kent State, where they won 56-0. Texas 51-3. Ole Miss 52-13 over whoever it was they played, and so on. You're on the other end of that. Only team worse was Kansas State over BYU. Did you see that box score from the Kansas State BYU game, Michael?
I I don't think I've looked at the box score, but I
All right,
did
let me
catch
look.
a lot of that because I think we had just finished recording our instant reaction that later that evening, and I sat down to watch me some Pac-12. I mean, excuse me, Big 12 after dark, and was treated to like 21 points in a minute or whatever it was, and then it was halftime, and
Yeah,
then that crazy punt return, and then I finally just had to go to bed because I'm sleepy old man.
that was just before half. Like
The
we had
punt
wrapped
return was
up
before
our
half.
uh that whole
No.
swing of things was all right before half.
Oh my gosh, it all blurs
Um,
together. It happened so quickly.
all right. Uh, I'm gonna run through stats and compare them. First downs, Kansas State 17, BYU 14. Total yards, Kansas State 367, BYU 241. They're within 10 yards of passing each other, or within 10 passing yards of each other. Rushing, Kansas State 228 for 5.3 yards per carry to BYU's 92 yards on 3.4 yards per carry. Um, Time of possession, 33 minutes in favor of the Wildcats over 27 minutes for BYU. Those would sound like the score was flipped, right? That
Mm-hmm.
Kansas State just put a 38-9 walloping on BYU and just they played bully ball and ran the ball whenever they did. The problem is Kansas State had eight penalties for 50 yards to BYU's only 2 penalties, and then 3 turnovers to BYU's 0. Um, so where it counted, um, Kansas State also went 0 for 3 on 4th down. So essentially went 8 for 20 on 3rd and 4th down conversions, where BYU went 4 for 10, which I guess is the exact same, exact same percentage there. But yeah, BYU put up 17 points in the second, and then 14 more in the third, and just put them away 38-9. So that's bad. I don't think Kansas State's that bad.
No.
I don't think BYU's that good. I did see an interesting video from our man John Boy, who did a little breakdown of the punt return and said that Kansas State did a really good job of tackling themselves. And then followed the punt return to the sideline where he then threw up. So that was fun. What was interesting, it was kind of funny. His teammates were coming over to congratulate him and like dap him up or whatever. And like a couple of them like hit him on the chest or hit him in the stomach. And he was like, friend, like, no, stop, don't do that. And then, like you can see the panic in his eyes, like,
It's
uh-oh.
coming.
He's like trying to get people away from him. Like there's a coach in his face. There's still people coming up to congratulate him. He just like, bleh. And then a quarterback came up late enough, like after it already happened, like walked right through it.
Ah,
Like,
man.
golly, that's gross.
Clear the room.
Yeah, and then he went off to the locker room. All right. Looking back on the game, I did watch a little bit of the highlight video, Michael, and I remember talking about not seeing as much play action in the game, and like the first few highlights were play action. I was like, oh well, there it is.
Yeah. Oops.
But it was really early on in the game where it was successful. Again, the touchdown was a play action. You had shown that diamond formation look. You'd even did that same step over motion or whatever you want to call it. That you would run 3 times versus North Texas, but just pounded it all 3 times. This time you had a play fake to Tahj and then threw it out to Giancarlos Miller. So another play action that was successful. You just didn't see the deep ball on play action like you did the week before. I think we touched on a lot on Saturday, but 4.5 yards per attempt is pitiful. I hope that's just a product of this run defense being very aggressive, playing back, and trying to keep everything in front of them, which is a weird mix. Like aggressive and playing back don't really sound like the same. But I was hearing somebody else say that basically what they were doing is they were showing you a light box, hoping you would run into it, um, but had a very well disguised run blitz or run fill where just DBs were coming like flying downhill. Um, so it looks like 5. You snap the ball, then all of a sudden there's 8 guys in the box. Like, why are we running 5 on 8? Well, it's because that's how their defense was working. So defensively, I mean, what else can you say? They contained Scadaboo on the ground outside of that one play where he broke it on the swing pass behind a blitz, which I thought I wanted to see Texas Tech try to do that with how disruptive Arizona State's blitzing was. Instead of trying to screen it to throw behind it, but that just wasn't the case. Otherwise, Scadaboo was contained to like three yards per carry. You only got a couple of runs from their quarterback Levitt. Not enough where they got him going. He looked off on some of his throws. Going back and looking at it, like he missed some guys that were open. That early pass interference, I think, was probably the right move there by Macho Stevenson. I don't know if you remember this one, Michael. It was 4th and 1, but Cincinnati throws a bomb and he's got him open.
Oh yeah.
And Stevenson just runs over the receiver. He's a little underthrown, so the receiver's turned around, kind of waiting on it, and Stevenson just plows through him. Didn't even look up, and we're like, "Oh, what are you doing?" I was like, "Well, had he caught that, or had there been an appropriate amount of air under that ball, like that could have been a touchdown."
Yeah, that was one of those Mahomes specials. It's like, let's just see what happens. Let's
Yeah.
throw it.
So,
Let's throw it to one of my good receivers and see if he can kind of force a defensive PI.
yeah. And the other thing we talk about in terms of penalties, Dalton Merriman, I think picked up 3 penalties on his own on the offensive line as the left tackle.
Personal foul one was weak.
Yeah, I think McGuire even addressed it. Like, you like that attitude, like 'cause he was going and getting a guy off of Brooks or, um, well, I don't remember if he was pulling a guy off of Brooks or Morton or one of the other running backs, but basically went over there, got guys off of the pile, off of his own guy, and got called for it.
Yeah.
Kind of soft. Like, again, I agree with McGuire there. I love the attitude. I love what you're doing. I think it was one of the things that we were looking forward to when Hamby was hired actually last year, just bringing that meanness back to offensive line. So, but the fall starts when holding or whatever. I want to get this cleaned up, especially if he's going to be your everyday starting left tackle moving forward. You can't have 3 penalties in the same game on just one guy. Anything else before we look back at our pregame predictions and kind of close the box on this one?
No, I didn't have any big epiphanies since our instant reaction last week. I still feel like the defense. Yes, there were there's room for improvement for the defense and for the offense, but I was really impressed with how the defense has stepped up, especially considering how they played the first couple weeks. And a lot of guys are pointing to, and we'll get to that a little bit in the press conferences, but that seemed to be a lot of the questions to McGuire and DeRuyter. Do you think, how much of this defensive improvement is due to younger guys just simply getting more time on the field, or do you think there's more to it? And we can kind of get into that more later, but I've been impressed with what I saw, and I think the offensive line has held up as well as you could expect them to with as many players as they've had out and have to shuffle over. So I thought it was I don't know if I want to say it was like a great win, but to quote Rob Bro, we don't complain about Big 12 wins.
Nope.
I think I'm paraphrasing. I'm not quoting him. He says something more profound because he's a true artist. But
yeah,
I just was I thought it was a great game and a pretty complete. And then the way they ran the ball, the way Kitley chose to attack the clock this time, which he talked about this week too,
Oh my gosh, yes.
was a welcome sight. So there was a lot of really good things, a lot of things that Tech could still work on, but they acknowledged that too. And hopefully they'll be able to do that and put together even a more complete game against Cincinnati this week. But I'm a little worried. I
But yeah,
did want to. Yeah, go ahead. What do you got?
I was gonna add on like the word section just about the guys that are missing, especially if we're gonna be without Kelly and possibly Brown. But I think if we're in that boat, I think we may see a lot of Micah Hudson, and maybe people will be okay with that. But
Yeah, and speaking of that, oh man, I'm having trouble pulling up the window because Roy was in the chat earlier, and he
yeah, okay.
mentioned.
So
Yeah, can you pull it up?
I've got it up. Yeah, he says I was curious. Joey said if Kelly couldn't play, that Brown would take his place in the slot, but Brown's in the questionable list too. Yeah,
okay. It's a valid point. I did not catch that.
Both are listed as questionable. Kelly is new, is a new add to the questionable list for this week. Jordan Brown was on there last week, but still played some. Yeah, and I don't know if he's more like to your point, Michael. Your response to him, I don't know if he's more worried about Kelly's ankle than Brown's shoulder. But yeah, coming into the game, I thought it was going to be close. Besides that, essentially, I'm kind of considering a garbage time score there for Arizona State, although there's plenty of time left. But
yeah, if they'd have gotten a onside kick, we may not be feeling that way.
Yeah, it'd be a lot more. Okay, you got away with it, but you did win by 8 points. You had a 14-point lead there. Going into the game, I had a 1-point victory for Texas Tech, and I thought it was going to be close either way. 31-30. Michael, you took Texas Tech by a touchdown. You had the spread there correctly, just a few more points than what actually scored. You had 35-28. And then from the YouTube comments, D Wayne, Tech wins 42-24. A Steve, 31-27 Tech. Aaron Fellers kind of had the script on the game a little bit. Tech jumps out to a lead and holds on late. He had Texas Tech winning 27-24, maybe the closest of anybody so far.
Yeah, that was pretty spot on.
Kelly Parks had Arizona State 31, Texas Tech 26. That was pretty close to the score, but flipped. Ryan Bradley had Tech 37, Arizona State 31, and then Ron McClure had Arizona State by 14. Texas Tech had the only one that was up by 14 at any point in the game. Ron, just pointing that out. Do you want to get to the opponent check-in, Michael? I don't know if we want to harm.
I'm going to do it real quick. I'm going to do it real quick just because this is interesting to me, and it may not be interesting to anyone else. So, ACU, FCS darling ACU, went down to number 4 Idaho this weekend at home, 27-24, and that dropped ACU from number 19 to number 20. So the voters really respect Idaho. But I just wanted everyone to know kind of where things are on some of these opponents that we've played. So ACU is now 2-2.
Well, they're ranked.
They're ranked. They're ranked, baby. And speaking of ranked, almost.
Kind of.
Not quite. Washington State is receiving votes. People, they are number 26 unofficially in the AP poll after taking down San Jose State at home, but it took overtime and they won by 2. And so I didn't even look into this enough to understand what happened, but I'm assuming that they went for 2 and San Jose State didn't get 2 when they scored a touchdown. I have no idea, but that's got to be what it was, because it wasn't like double overtime or triple or something else. So respect if that's how it went down, or maybe no, that wouldn't have been how that worked. So yeah, I guess Washington State must have scored first, went for 2. Mad cojones on doing that.
Yeah,
at home. So they're 4-0, baby. So our that's a quality loss so far.
The did we get beat that bad chart had a San Jose State over Washington State there in the graphic, similar to Texas Tech, or Arizona State over Texas Tech. So, but it wasn't as much separation between the two. Words are hard tonight, apparently. I can't talk.
It's cool.
It's kind of important. All right, let's get to the Cincinnati Bearcat preview. Michael, I was actually a little bit surprised to see their S&P Plus ranking here.
Me too.
Cincinnati rolls in as number 50, Texas Tech 59. Actually moved down this past weekend. They were 55, dropped a couple spots. What did you take away from the Monday lunchtime press conference, Michael?
Mostly, I just kind of gleaned more from DeRuyter and Kitley. I should have listened to McGuire, but honestly, that was 40 minutes, and sorry, I didn't make it through that. But DeRuyter had some interesting things to say. Mostly, he got asked, like I mentioned earlier, about 50% of starters being underclassmen, and had a lot of nice things to say about Chapman Lewis and Brennan Jordan making big time plays in critical situations, and that the squad as a whole knew that they didn't play well the first two games. I mean, everybody knew that. But he said then they went to work, and the coaches, he put some blame on himself and some of the other coaches, saying that we may have given them too much and confused them. So we've simplified things. So it looks like hopefully it's a combination of just a simpler scheme or better communication, which is something that we've talked about since the end of that ACU game, was just communication and blown coverages on passing defense being an Achilles heel. So that's obviously gotten better. Something that they're concerned with is this coming week is since he has more weapons offensively, including elite tight ends. Henderson is a great receiver. Kiner and Pryor are big time backs, quote, and they use the run game to set up throws. Sounds familiar. And they have very few turnovers on the season. One thing that I didn't really notice till someone asked him a question about it was since he's successful early starts, and DeRuyter mentioned that, yeah, they kind of have a game plan specific set of plays or whatever, that when they start games, it seems like, and it's a lot of play action and they take shots early. And so I thought, well, let me look at that. And I did some quick research. So Cincy, in first quarter points, they had 21 versus Towson, 14 versus Pitt, only 3 on the road at Miami, Ohio, but then 14 versus Houston. First half points versus Towson, they had 28 of their 38 total, 17 of 27 total versus Pitt, 10 of their, and I closed out how many they scored against
27.
Miami. Okay, 10 of 27 against Miami, Ohio. So that's kind of the outlier, and that's an away game. That's a road game. And then 24 of their 34 points where they skunked Houston last week. So they do score early.
Not on the road, though.
On this very small sample size, though. The road,
yeah.
The road is to quote Tenacious D, the road is a bitch, my friend. But it's the only bleeping road I know. So that's going to be something that they'll have to find out if they can actually do this consistently.
It's a family show, Michael.
I didn't say the things. I bleeped
You
them.
didn't say what the
You just want to use the beep.
I knew I had it on here. We have not even looked at it for a minute. It's been so long. I haven't even messed with this board. Anyways,
really, the only other thing I want to mention about what DeRuyter said was he got asked straight up, how much does it help when I'm going to paraphrase this, but pretty much someone straight up asked him, how much does it help when Kitley doesn't go tempo? That was not what they said. They went around, but that was exactly what they asked.
They need to. I'm sorry. You need to ask the rest.
DeRuyter kind of hemmed and hawed around it and was talking about how well the defense played, and it helps so much to get uh, to get those stops and to slow down the run and eat up some clock and stuff. But then he finally realized he wasn't answering the question at all, and so he just finally said, "Our job is not to worry about the offensive tempo." Fair.
Okay.
I mean, how else are you going to answer that?
And to his credit, like, what would you hope to accomplish by asking a direct question like that? He's not going to throw his OC under the bus.
No.
I mean, it's like when I was complaining about asking McGuire about a targeting penalty. Like, there's nothing good can come out of him answering this question. Like,
Mhm.
if you want a truthful answer, like that could result in a fine. Is that what you want? You want to fine our coach to be truthful? Um, or sorry, to get our coach fined. Um, I mean, yeah. All right, so I was reading through your notes for what Kitley said, and man, I can't tell how much like how much this is just him just messing with us. Because like he very much seems like a guy that like has his finger on the pulse of what everybody's saying and thinking, um, and is prepared to just mess with everybody in the press conference.
It's possible he could be trolling us all. So
So like his first question you have up here: how do you grade your own play calling?
yeah.
He said 75% since we're 3-1. He's taking credit for all three wins,
Well, if you
essentially.
don't win, then you don't get any points. I guess for the yeah. I don't know. All that matters is winning. He said that a lot. He said that kind of thing a lot in the press conference. Uh, one of the things he mentioned was let me get over there to it. Someone asked him a question about offensive identity, and Kitley went into it quite a bit, and he said, it helps having Tahj Brooks and guys that are just making plays. Josh Kelly is a stud. Quote: "You've got three tight ends doing great things." He said the key is being balanced and right off what 28 can do. Of course, 28 being Brooks. Then he said this, which I think he meant it, but he said something like this a couple times. During the second quarter, while they were struggling, he flipped that mindset of let's stop trying to score right now and let's just win a football game. And I'm thinking, well, surely that's what you think all the time, right? Let's just win the football game. You haven't just been thinking, oh, we need to score, we need to score, we need to score. Well, okay, hopefully you're thinking both because sometimes, yeah, you do need to score, but maybe not from 45 yards out on 4th and 13. Maybe you need to just play some football or let's just move the chains. Maybe not. Maybe let's not score. Let's just move the chains. Let's. So he did talk complimentary football a little bit, and he did talk about changing that mindset of trying to score and just trying to win. And it feels like that was something that maybe he was told he should be doing, or someone online said he should be doing, because I swear he repeated it 2 or 3 times. So
So
you may be on. He may be trolling us all. It's hard to tell.
um flip the mindset of let's stop trying to score right now. Goals to win a football game. So it was in response to the second half slowdown. I was like, well, was that the second half slowdown? Or are you saying, Kitley, that once your offense stopped being so productive, then you tried to flip the script saying, well, we're just going to go ahead and slow it down anyways? Like,
Yeah.
when did that mindset change? I mean, to give him credit, when we were running clock there at the end, and you were leaning into, you know, taking advantage of all the body blows you had landed earlier in the game, it was a thing of beauty. You were letting Tahj Brooks get his yards there. He was getting more yards per carry. You saw Dickey come in. You saw Jacoby Williams come in. All three of those guys were finding yards late, you know, towards the end of the fourth quarter, mid fourth quarter, because you had worn down the defense. I mean, Williams was a a shoestring tackle away from breaking a long one, maybe even a score there. Um, Brooke, I mean, your lineman was still not having like a lot of success run blocking, and Kitley touches on that. It says they left 50, 60 rushing yards out there without opening up any lanes. Um, I mean, my goodness, like how can our offensive line be this bad? And yet, how can we be still so good on the ground? I mean, that's just a testament to Tahj Brooks, really. That we're getting so little push up front, and yet he's still doing what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's phenomenal. All right. Well, with that, we are welcoming in the Bearcats to Lubbock, 7 p.m. over on ESPN2 Saturday evening. High of 88, although it'll be on its way down at that point. Um, very low chance of rain, but a little bit of wind coming out of the north. So it will definitely cool off once the sun goes down. Bearcats are led by Scott Satterfield in his second season. Not great, 6-10 so far. Previous to Cincinnati, he was at Appalachian State, where he went 51-24 from 2013 to 2018, and then at Louisville, 25-24 from 19 to 22.
Yeah.
He coached them to 3 bowl appearances, but he resigned before the 2022 Fenway Bowl. And his first season at Louisville was their best, and it was 8-5.
Yeah, it's kind of revisionist history here because it's not like I'm up on my Cincinnati trivia. But just first glance, this seems like such a mid-higher. Is
Yes.
this wrong to say this? I know I'm just some guy in West Texas that is not familiar with Bearcat lore, but going
Well,
25
it
and
seemed like
24 in the ACC, and you're like, oh, that's our guy. Got to have him.
he was the hot and upcoming guy at Appalachian State. Everybody wanted him, and then he got to Louisville. And it's like, man, everybody's like, "Whew, he dodged that bullet," because he wasn't really any ever good. He wasn't ever any good. Um, like you'd wonder if like is that what would have happened with Trailer at UTSA, um, or is that what's happening with Neil Brown? I don't know, but it's not looking good. Cincinnati is the 35th best road team, coming against number 41 home team, if that means anything from team rankings. Last year they were 3-9, 1-8 in Big 12 play, with wins against Eastern Kentucky, Pitt, and Houston. And they went 0-7 to start Big 12 play, if y'all remember that. This year they're 3-1 and 1-0 in Big 12 play. Poor Houston lost to them both years. We already went through the scores here, but 38-20 versus Towson, 27-28 loss versus Pitt. This is a Pitt team that is found an offensive identity with a new offensive coordinator. And they put up 73 points last week versus Youngstown State, which is not, it's not nobody, but it's not like, Penn State. They did have a 2-score win at Miami of Ohio, but it is Miami of Ohio, 27-16, and then took Houston to task, man, 34-0. It is Willie Fritz's first year. He is a good coach, and they got some guys there, but I mean, a shutout's oof.
Yeah, I want to get to on the head-to-head series. We already talked about the football team having not met since 1968, and that was a 10-10 tie. So since Cincinnati's joined the Big 12, it has not gone well for the Red Raiders overall. So we need this. We need this to kind of right the ship, because Cincy played Tech in baseball once, and it was the Big 12 tournament, and Cincy won. We played them in men's basketball once in Lubbock, and Cincy won. Played them twice in women's basketball. Cincy won them both. But we can hang our hat on this. In soccer, Texas Tech played them twice last year, once in regular season, once in the Big 12 tournament, won them both. Thank you, ladies, for saving our skins a little bit to not going completely over against Cincy their first year in the Big 12. So a little bit riding on this one, football team. Let's try to stack some success, as one of our former coaches used to say.
Yeah. Other thing we're keeping an eye on is penalties. Texas Tech 38 penalties on the season. Cincinnati exactly half of that, 19. But Texas Tech 38 penalties for 307 yards. They are 119th in total penalty yards and 129th in penalties per game. Yikes. Cincinnati is 42nd in total penalty yards and 23rd in penalties per game. And then field goals, Michael, is that our stats or is that theirs?
That's Cincy's. I just left that on there. Nothing remarkable. The Cincinnati 7 of 9 on field goals this year. I didn't even dig into.
Oh, because we haven't missed one yet.
Right. I'm
Knock on
just
wood.
kind of scared to say it out loud.
Sorry. It's me. It's me, everybody. When Garcia and Burkhart both miss one this weekend, it's going to be because of me.
Oh my God. And you just doubled down.
All right. When the Bearcats have the ball, they are led offensively. Brad Glenn as offensive coordinator. On the field, Brendan Sorsby, 6'3", 230, redshirt sophomore. If you look at the Big 12 quarterback preseason rankings or projections, he was 13. Just a scotch ahead of number 14, Baron Morton. Sorry.
I skipped over looking pretty good right now, though.
Yeah. Glenn's coaching history, real quick. He's been coaching just about 30 years. He was an offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach at Georgia State for 3 years, 19 through 21. Pass game coordinator and quarterbacks coach at Virginia Tech in 22, and is now the offensive coordinator at Cincinnati for 2 years. Calling in plays to Brendan Sorsby, like I just said, completing 65% of his passes, just 1,055. I was going to say just under 1,100 yards, just over 1,000. It's right there in the middle. 1,055 yards, 8 touchdowns, no interceptions. Michael notes that he's due.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. Actually, out of the Dallas area, Lake Dallas High School. On the ground, he's 25 carries for 53 yards.
It's really not that much.
Sorry.
Yeah. It's
a net of 14. How does that work out?
Yeah, I know. It was 53 yards. He loses a lot.
Oh, because they remove the sack yardage from that. Okay.
Yeah, he's not. He's what I was trying to illustrate there is he's shouldn't be a threat on the ground. He's averaging 0.6 yards per carry, but he does have 3 touchdowns.
Oh, don't worry. We'll fix that.
And he does. He is the number 2 rusher on the team in attempts. So I don't know. I don't know what any of that means aside from it's effective when it needs to be, I guess.
Yeah, Corey Kiner is their running back, 5'9", 210 senior, 64 attempts. So he's got 64. Sorsby's got 23. Their other running back, Evan Pryor's got 15. But Kiner on the ground, 64 carries, 413 yards, 6.3 yards per carry, and 2 touchdowns. Those are Tahj Brooke-esque numbers, fellas. Actually, a little bit better in yards and yards per carry, but I doubt he's missed a game like Brooks has or played Arizona State's defense. They haven't, by the way. Evan Pryor, their redshirt junior, backup, 5'10", 198, 15 carries, 198 on the ground. That's 12.9 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns, and a long of 65. So if you take that one out, I'm just kidding. That's not how it works. Through the air, leading receiver is Xavier Henderson, 6'3", 200 senior, 25 catches on the year, 326 yards, 13 yards per catch, and 3 touchdowns. Joe Royer, tight end, 6'5", 255 junior. These are all old guys. 14 catches, 206 yards, about 15 yards per catch and 2 touchdowns. And then the other guy to look out for, Sterling Burkhalter, 6'3", 200, Only 8 catches on the year, 162 yards, 20 yards per catch, and a touchdown. I don't know what to make of your Tech Lubbock connections. There aren't many.
No, I couldn't find any.
Besides Tuberville and staff bolting from Lubbock to Cincinnati about 12 years ago now, whatever it's been. A love of chili, but it's a little bit different. I've never had Skyline chili. I'm sure it has its place, but when you talk about chili in Texas, it means something.
I'll tell you
different
where
than what it
Skyline
means.
chili has its place, on a big pile of spaghetti and under a huge pile of cheese. It's fantastic. I love it.
So I heard it described as like a really like a really thick meat sauce on spaghetti.
I don't know if it's that thick. It's got quite a bit of liquid to it, but that's kind of intentional. I think it's I don't know. It's
I need to see a plate of this.
I know.
Good gravy, that's a lot of cheese. I've seen pictures of this. It's like it's covered.
We're talking
Good
Taco
night.
Casa levels of cheese on this thing. Possibly more. They might out Taco Casa.
Like, what are we doing?
They've got like 3-way and 5-way. I forget what all those means. I know that like chili and cheese and onions is a 3-way, I think. And then they've got 5-way. I forgot what they add with the 5-way. 2 more things. Maybe the noodles count? Nah, I don't know.
Right,
but
hold on.
I'm married to a woman from Kentucky, so I've had Skyline chili quite a few times, and I have no issues with it.
3-way is spaghetti, chili, and cheese.
Okay, so the spaghetti counts as one of the ways.
Yeah.
Okay.
A 4-way is a 3-way with onions or beans.
Oh.
5 is onions and beans.
Okay, I didn't know beans were in the mix. That makes sense.
Yeah, then it's no longer chili, if you know what I mean.
How dare you?
And then Mahomes and Kelsey. Well, they don't get to have Mahomes. They can certainly have. Well,
no, that's what I'm saying. That's a connection.
I see what you
That's
did
an
there.
actual connection of Mahomes to Kelsey.
Kelsey went to Cincinnati.
Yeah,
obviously Mahomes went to Tech.
Big 12 legend Travis Kelsey.
Yeah. All right. When Cincinnati has the ball, they are putting it in the air for 270 yards a game at 8.9 yards per attempt. And then on the ground, 198 yards at 5.6 yards per carry. They are scoring 31.5 points per game, converting 45% of their third downs and 100% of their fourth downs, but they've only gone for it 3 times. Defensively for Texas Tech, they're allowing teams to throw it 280 yards per game at 8.1 yards per attempt, so not as many yards per attempt. 160 yards on the ground at 4.5 yards per carry, so there's a little bit of a difference there. Texas Tech is allowing teams to convert 40.4% of third downs and 45.5% of their fourth downs. They're 5 of 11 and holding teams to 32.8 points per game. Defensively for Cincinnati, they are coordinated by Tyson Veit. His first season at Cincinnati. Apparently, he was a starter at a college called Muskingum.
Yeah, somewhere in Ohio, I think. Probably ate a lot of chili.
He's been a coach / grad assistant since '97. Had a fairly unsuccessful 10 years as a head coach at a school called Bluffton from 2009 to 2013, where he went 19-41. But since 2016 until very recently, he was an Iowa State associate head coach and linebackers coach. So you're getting another school that poached an Iowa State position coach to run their defense.
Yeah, and his claim to fame is converting that quarterback to a linebacker at Iowa State.
Back to a quarterback when they played against Texas Tech.
Yeah. The thing that they love to bring up.
Or was it a?
We padded his resume.
Like 7 touchdowns against Texas Tech that year.
That sounds right.
Not 7.
Niner.
Hold on.
What was it?
No,
2016.
not Niner. 2016. It was 66-10.
Yes,
Lanning.
that's it.
Joel
Lanning.
Lanning. Screw you, Kingsbury never playing defense. As a defense, the Cincinnati Bearcat defense, 25 tackles for loss, 9 sacks, 3 interceptions, 16 quarterback hurries, and 17 pass breakups. They are a disruptive defense led up front by, has to be all-name team, Deontay Corleone, 6'1", 320-pound defensive tackle, 9 tackles, 3 solos, 1 sack, 3 quarterback hurries, all-American nose tackle. Nickname is the Godfather, obviously fitting. He's just now coming back into the fold. He had some off-season blood clot issues. Kept him out at least week 1. Defensive end, Eric Phillips, 6'3", 260, senior, 5 tackles, 3.5 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, and 3 quarterback hurries. Linebacker, these are guys you need to be aware of. Jared Bartlett, also a senior. Like, everybody's a senior, except for Corleone. He's a junior.
These are older guys. Yes.
Old defense. Linebacker, Jared Bartlett, 6'3", 240, 20 tackles, 11 solo, 4 tackles for loss, 2 breakups, and a quarterback hurry. And then safety, Derek Canteen, 5'11", 200, 18 tackles, 11 solo, 1 interception, tackle and a half for loss, and 3 pass breakups. So when Texas Tech has the ball, they are putting it in the air, 319 yards per game at 7.1 yards per attempt. That number's got to go up. 169 yards per game at 5 yards per carry. I'm okay with those right there, converting just under 50% of third downs and 33% of fourth downs, or 3 of 9 so far in the season, and putting up 41 points per game. Defensively for the Bearcats, they are allowing teams to throw for 250 yards per game at 7.5 yards per attempt. 139 yards per game on the ground, but 4.5 yards per carry. A lot of this is it's held, like the yards per carry and total yards don't really align. You think if teams are running it for that much yards per carry, they'd run it for more per game. But when you get in games like they had, where they were scoring a lot of points early, it puts the other team out of the game plan of trying to run the ball. But they are pretty stingy on third down, allowing only 32.7% of third down conversions and 30% on fourth downs. And a shutout here helps, but 16 points per game.
Wow.
Do they allow? CFB graphs tells a different story, though, Michael. We pointed this last week, or at least in the post game. It has been updated. This gives Texas Tech a 75% chance to win this one. It was quite a bit closer when Arizona State was in town, but basically a 32-23, which is a weird score. I don't know how you get there. Let's say 31-23, 8-point game in favor of the Red Raiders. Although their projected margin is a full 9 points, over under of 55. The official line, though, Michael, has Texas Tech as a 3.5 point favorite, very much the same as last week, over under of 58.5. Last week versus Arizona State, it was 3 points, over under 58.5. So
yeah, it was very close. It was almost a copy paste of last week.
I am much more confident this week, having seen it happen against Arizona State, and liking these numbers better versus Cincinnati than I did against Cincinnati versus Arizona State. I'm going to take, with a night game, a little bit extra juice for the home team, and seeing Cincinnati not play super well on the road. Give me Texas Tech 34 to Cincinnati's 24.
Okay.
34-24 Tech.
I'm a little more pessimistic than you, but stay with me. So last week I went with 35-28 Tech winning. And I thought about I'm just going to copy paste and do that again. But I do think that this game's going to slow down a little bit more. I'm worried about the All-American, the Godfather. Look what they've done to my boy. Is that good? Is that any good? I'm
I
worried
haven't
about.
seen the movies, so
Oh, okay. So you think it's great? Him getting pressure to the quarterback. They've got a lot of guys that can do that, and I think that that's something that will always be a concern for me. They have a very effective running back duo, and one of them who's particularly explosive. Great playmakers on the offensive side. A quarterback with 0 interceptions, but I think he's going to throw one this week with 1,000 yards through 4 games. I mean, I think this is a pretty salty team on both sides of the ball. Penalties worry me. I'm worried that Tech's going to get some bonehead penalties, and Cincinnati probably won't, just based off of how they've done this week. But I still am going to pick Tech to win. I'm just going to pick it to be a little bit snug. I don't think we're going to be super comfortable. I've got Tech winning 31-28, which just hits the over, but has Cincy actually covering the 3.5 point spread, which I would stay away from this thing if it's 3.5 points. I don't. I wouldn't pick Cincy plus. If I had to pick, if I had to go back and make a call on the line, I would take TTU at -3.5. But I just think this game's going to be kind of close. Like you said, though, we saw this Tech team defend well last week against a running team, but I think this quarterback is better and is going to be able to make some better plays and more consistent and more accurate passes to his receivers. So I know I listed a lot of things, but I've got concerns. That's all I'm saying. I'm just voicing them. You and I both thought
well,
coming into the season that this would be a win. We're both still there, but
we're
I'm
both
probably not
4-0
as
on the season.
we are. Not to toot our own horn, but we are.
Toot toot. Looking at the CFB graphs though, like there are highlights or glimpses of positivity, Michael. And I'm
Okay.
looking at their defensive success rate. Cincinnati's defensive success rate. They are 95th in defensive success rate, just total. 108th versus their rush. That doesn't play well against a team that wants to run the ball with Tahj Brooks.
Yeah.
They are middle of the pack on dropbacks, 66th. Going up against them, offensive success rate, Texas Tech is 64, so middle pack, just general offense. So 64th versus 95th, our offense versus their defense. Our rush rate, good for 34th versus their 108th rush defense. Drop back 80th for Texas Tech offense to 66th. So the one area they have an advantage, it's a slim margin, 66th to 80. So there you go. What else you got, Michael? Anything else for Texas Tech, Cincinnati?
I don't think so. I'm excited about the game time. I think that's great that Tech got a night game for a Big 12 opponent. And
You know who?
what?
What else we haven't talked about? Big 12 night game opponent for Texas Tech
What's that?
next week, Arizona, 10 p.m. Central kickoff.
Yeah,
Screw this nonsense.
I've been such a proponent of Big 12 After Dark that I feel like I've got to stick with the bit. But boy, this is going to be tough. It's going to be
Well,
hard for a 41 year
I
old
don't know if
man to just be like, oh yeah, I'll stay up till 2 a.m, go to church with my family the next day, no problem.
I don't know if you and I talked about it. I definitely know that that I heard Kyle on the Gauchos say it. Having one of these Big 12 After Dark kind of matchups a season is kind of fun. Like it's okay.
Yeah.
It's a lot different if you can like tune into a game that you're not invested in. Like just put a game on, like have that kind of play out as you're winding down. Completely different when it's your team.
Yes.
And this will be game 2 of like this out of your first 5. Sorry, 6. That you'll be super late.
Yeah, and one wasn't even a conference game.
You know,
So
Michael's already checked out of a post game instant reaction for next weekend.
Man, if that okay, I don't think I could do it because we would probably be starting at 1:45ish, and by the
So
time
late.
all said and done, we would be hopefully done and in bed by 3 a.m. And brother, I don't think I can do it. I don't know if I can. I don't know if
You
it'd
know what we
be
should
if
do?
I would have anything worth saying at that time of day.
I should just get the stream of the Raymar call-in show that Bro is going to be hosting
Oh man,
and just kind of patch that in.
I
He's
didn't
got to
think
be
of
on the air for an hour after the
does.
game goes final.
On actual real radio. I didn't think about our man having to do that. Wow.
Taking calls. I don't know how many people are going to be calling the station that time, or he just has to fill air.
Yeah.
It'd be rough for him.
I mean, the good news is that should be at least regular season because all bets are off in bowl season. Fingers crossed. That should be the last crazy late game because all of the other games
We've got Baylor
against
at home.
Teams. Yeah.
And Baylor at home, on the road in Fort Worth, in Ames, home versus Colorado, at Oklahoma State, home versus West Virginia.
Yeah, if anything, the West Virginia one, who knows? They might knock that out at 5:30 our time. Let's go. Sounds great.
Thanksgiving weekend too. All right, let's look around the rest of the Big 12 real quick. Oklahoma State at Kansas State. This game feels different now, Michael.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like a few weeks ago this was a big Big 12 title implication, and it probably still is. But the way both of these teams lost this weekend, like, are we playing for third place here? I don't know. Kansas State home favorite here, 6 points, 11 a.m. on ESPN. Oof, that's rough. BYU at Baylor. Baylor's a 2.5 point home favorite here, 11 a.m. FS1. TCU at Kansas. Kansas somehow is a favorite here. It was, I guess, because TCU got beat pretty bad. But Kansas, I mean, they felt the need to put out a coach statement graphic today. It basically
says Arrowhead, right?
Hang with us. I don't know where it's being played, but that was rough. TCU at Kansas. Kansas 2-point favorite, 2:30 ESPN plus. Colorado at UCF. That one could be wild. Although UCF is a 2-touchdown favorite. My goodness, 2:30 on Fox.
I'm really hoping both teams wear a combination of gold and black.
Well, I mean, those are colors, Michael.
Well, man, am I in for a treat?
Black, white, and gold. Iowa State, 12.5 point favorites on the road in Houston, 6 p.m. FS1. And then Arizona at Utah, 12.5 point favorites are the Utes, 9:15. There's your Big 12 After Dark this week. ESPN. Arizona State and West Virginia are both off this week.
So I'm sure everyone's still wondering. The TCU game at Kansas will be at Arrowhead Stadium. So I guess that
there you go.
-2 line really factored in the home field advantage of playing in like an empty ass stadium.
Empty.
Oh my gosh. I hope they do like they do with certain things, even at Tech, like they just don't sell the top section. Like you just can't buy those. Don't go those. Don't sit up there. Don't do anything up there. Just stay here. Stay low. Stay close. No need.
Yeah. It's a capacity of just over 76,000.
Wow. You think they'll see 10% of that? Probably. I'm just being a little bit cheeky.
No.
They'll probably. I bet they might get 20 there.
Oh, okay. Yes. I don't know.
I didn't mean to
for
throw
some
fractions
reason
at you
heard
this
that.
time of day.
I heard it as like 50%. Like, they're not going to get 30, 40,000 people there.
Ooh, man. They're going to host Houston at Arrowhead, too.
Yikes. All right. We would normally hit what do we learn here? But there was some basketball news, Michael, that we're gonna get to real quick. We're not gonna play the bumper. That's gonna take too long. We'll get to this much faster. Non-conference schedule for basketball officially came out, at least relatively soon. Relatively. The home schedule was announced, but the full schedule with times and everything is out there. It sucks. Just getting that out there. We talked about that already, but tipping off November 5th, Bethune-Cookman, 7 p.m. there on Tuesday night. Northwestern State on November 8th. Wednesday, November 13th, hosting Wyoming. Monday, the 18th, hosting Arkansas Pine Bluff. Later on that week, up in New York at the Barclays Center, playing St. Joseph's. In the Legends Classic presented by Old Trapper. And then the next day you'll play Texas or Syracuse, depending on how those brackets work out.
Hey, I've heard of them.
Yeah, I've heard of both of those teams. The next Friday, the 29th, you'll be back home to take on Northern Colorado. So you can hit a Texas Tech basketball game on the 29th and a Texas Tech football game on the 30th, with Northern Colorado and West Virginia both in town. And then your Big 12 Big East battle, DePaul, Wednesday, December 4th. U.S. LBM Coast to Coast Challenge, December 8th, Sunday in Dickies Arena, Texas A&M. I've heard of them. December 16th, Monday, Oral Roberts. December 21st, Saturday versus Lamar. And then you get into Big 12 play. This stinks, Michael. I hate this non-conference schedule.
I mean, my blood pressure is just boiling. It's fine.
I'm not even like
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Quad one. No one knows what a quad one win is anyway.
You're not going to see a quad one on your schedule. I mean, excuse me. There's Texas. There's A&M.
There's the chance
Syracuse
to play
maybe.
Texas.
Yeah. And then we talked about this a little earlier. There are 16 players, former players, that are going to be playing for other teams this season. Michael, I'm going to go through this really quickly. One, surprising Micah Peavy still has eligibility, but he is playing at Georgetown this season. Chibuzo Agbo, transferred from Texas Tech to Boise State, will be at USC. Vlad Golden will be at Michigan this year, and that's not the only former Texas Tech Red Raider playing for Michigan. Damari Burnett, former five-star under Beard, went from Tech to Alabama and now at Michigan. Daniel Bacho, Arizona to Texas Tech to Louisiana Tech. Ethan Duncan dropped down from Texas Tech to LCU, so he's still in town, but Malik Wilson still has some eligibility playing it out at Houston. Lamar Washington went from obviously Tech to Pacific, as is Elijah Fisher. He's now at Pacific after playing at DePaul last season. Pop Isaacs will be at Creighton. Demarion Williams at High Point. Robert Jennings at Oklahoma State. CJ Williams will be at Auburn. Kyron Lindsey at Murray State. And Drew Steffi, SIU. Whatever that is.
Southern Illinois,
Indiana.
Indianapolis.
Oh, now I'm gonna look it up. SIU basketball. Southern Illinois.
Ah,
Salukis.
yeah, I'm with you. I didn't realize PV still had eligibility, and Georgetown has been not good. And it's not like there was a
Yeah, I
coaching
don't.
change at TCU. Maybe he just wanted one. That's just kind of an interesting. Hmm. You never know. You never know these things.
All right, now let's wrap up with what we learned, Michael. What do you say?
I'm ready.
What did we learn, Palmer?
I don't know, sir.
I don't know either.
All right. You've got a restaurant and a ice cream flavor, Michael.
Yes.
Where do you want to start?
Okay, let's start restaurant because that just happened today. So those of you in Lubbock, if you've ever been over by Slide and 98th Street, there's a shopping center over there. Shopping center, mostly food, but there's Gators Bayou over there. Nothing Bunt Cakes, Rain Cafe. I think it's still open, or Rain Uptown. Actually, it may not be anymore. But anyway, at the end, at the west end, where the Bent Nail used to be, is a Mexican restaurant called Mi Tierra Taqueria. And shout out to my mom, who this may be the first time, or maybe the second time, that she's pointed me to a place to eat. And I've been really excited to share it. So tonight, my wife and I finally went, and fantastic Mexican food. Both of us really liked what we had. My wife had the Texas plate, which is two
I was
beef.
just looking at that.
Oh,
my
I know.
Goodness.
Oh, it was great. And she brought like over half of it home. So it's two beef or cheese enchiladas and carne asada served with guacamole, rice, refried beans, and flour tortillas on the side. Phenomenal. And I had
Set me up.
Yeah, I had the oh boy, I'm gonna butcher this. Alambres. I said it like that when I ordered it
Okay.
with a question mark
With
because
a question.
I don't ever trust myself. And it was basically 3 fajita tacos, and they're filled with steak and grilled onions and bell pepper and cheese and served with rice. And so it was kind of cool how they serve it. So they just put down 3 tortillas, and then they just pile a bunch of delicious fajita meat on top of them, and then you just kind of make your own fajita tacos. And I'm telling you, man, there was so much meat. They were like the fullest fajita tacos I've ever had, because you know when you go somewhere and you get fajitas, you're like, oh, I'm going to put like 3 strips in this little tortilla.
Sure.
But this was just loaded. So we went there for the first time. Will not be the last. Highly suggest folks going to check it out. They've got a drive-through there, and they were so fast. I mean, I couldn't believe how fast they were with our food. And just they brought out chips and salsa, which were complimentary. And then they brought out 3 bottles of other hot sauce or salsas that they have too. So you got to like try different. So we had essentially chips and 4 different salsas that we could kind of try out. And they had a kind of a guacamole crema green sauce that was really good that I put on the fajita tacos. And they had a regular tomatillo kind of sauce that was that, and a kind of a chipotle, kind of a fiery flavor one with it. Yeah. So it was, and they were all hot. Chipotle? Did I say it right?
No, you
Chipotle?
didn't. But the second one was right.
Chipotle. Y'all knew what
Oh
it meant.
man, it looks so good. It looks so good. This is, I've actually received a recommendation to try this. My boss lives kind of in that area. And she's like, if you haven't tried this, you should go there. Because I talked about going to Garcia's. If you haven't been to Garcia's, you need to check that place out too.
It's a
And she's
staple.
like, well, if you like Garcia's, then you might like meat yet. I was like, I should go check it out, especially after your recommendation. I was going through the menu real quick. I got to the Texas plate. I was like, enchiladas and carne asada.
Yes.
Hit me up with that. Then I kept scrolling. They had a ribeye plate. They have quesadilla tacos. Just a straight up carne asada plate. They got a ribeye and enchilada plate a little bit further down. Of course,
One of my favorite
fajitas,
things, and not every place
menudo.
does it, but they have. I love 2 enchiladas and a crunchy taco. I love that. A lot of places just either do 2 enchiladas or they do 2 tacos, or it's 1 enchilada and 1 taco. But the sweet spot for me is 2 enchiladas and 1 crunchy taco, and they have that in the combo plate, which I didn't get because I was too intrigued by the 3 fajita tacos, and it was great. I I was joking with my wife, like, if I ordered 3 fajita tacos at Rose's, that would have cost me $30.
They're so expensive.
And this plate, I usually don't do prices on here, but that fajita taco plate I mentioned was $13.99. And
Yeah.
a lesser man, not a lesser man, a bigger man. Well, that doesn't work. If I hadn't been a glutton, I could have easily just only eaten 2 and taken 1 home, but they were too good. I ate all 3. You,
Yeah.
most people could probably spread that to 2 meals.
So I was looking at their taco choices too. You
Yeah,
got
those look
meat
legit.
choices: asada, pastor, suadero, pollo, chorizo, barbacoa, carnitas, campechano. I butchered that. Campechano. There's no Chicano in there. Ground beef and guisada. And then they've got the specials, the cabeza, the lengua, and the tripa.
Yeah.
You can get it street taco, uh, soft taco, crispy taco style, uh, deluxe with tomatoes, lettuce, and cheese. Um, then you get the burritos, quesadillas. Ah,
Did
I
you
got to
see
get
the
family
Dorito
at some point.
nachos?
I did. Doritos topped with asada or pastor, pico de gallo, guacamole, and queso. I
So
would
yeah,
put some of those
shout out
away.
to my mom and her church friends, and my aunt, who's one of her church friends too, that started telling me about this restaurant. Like, oh yeah, yeah, okay, because it's close to where my mother-in-law lives, so we drive by there all the time, and
Mhm.
just finally tried it. Man, guys, it's really good.
I'm gonna text my wife right now. We have to schedule
I
time
know, because if
to
you
go.
go, you have more mouths to feed, so you can maybe try more things. It was just the 2 of us. Our little one was with my mother-in-law today, so we were going to pick her up. We thought, let's get some Mexican food on the way.
Well, maybe
Score.
we do that then. It's just like a date night, just me and her first. Go
There
try
you
it
go.
out. I'm gonna add something in here. Also food related, Michael. I guess it's a kind of a family recipe, although it's not like a passed down secret recipe. But Samantha's family has been making um, chocolate chip pumpkin cookies in the fall as long as I've known them, and they only make it in the fall. Obviously,
It's so good. I'm
it's that
so
time of
in.
year.
Yeah.
We made some the other day, and we're going through them slowly, not because they're not any good, but because we're trying to savor them. And it is the simplest of recipes, Michael. I'm gonna put you on this real quick. It is a box of spice cake mix. It is a can of canned pumpkin, and it has as much chocolate chips that your heart says. That is it. There's enough liquid in the canned pumpkin to make this a cookie dough. You don't have to make the cake mix by the directions on the box. You don't have to add water. Oh, sorry. And there's 2 tablespoons of flour, but there's no oil, there's no eggs, there's no water. It is the spice cake, can of pumpkin, and then 2 tablespoons of flour, and however many chocolate chips you want. Ended up going with ended up being about half a bag of those chocolate chips. It was in the mix, and then I put 3 on top of each one of the cookies as I put them on the sheet. And they made a pretty good, like, 2-inch cookie, 2 dozen of them. Fantastic, man. And also for those not trying to eat your day's worth of calories and sweets, these are still plenty sweet and just over 100 calories per cookie. So it's not like you feel all that bad about having a few. I mean, you could definitely house quite a few of these, but it's not like some kind of decadent, extravagant treat that you have to feel like you're going all out for.
I would eat that for breakfast.
Man, are they so good. I'm going to have at least one after we hit stop on this recording tonight. Oh, look, you typed it up. There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Your last thing before we wrap it up. Oh, no, yeah. Spencer's no fail, 100% guaranteed, surefire pumpkin chocolate chip cookies. I mean, that's a little extravagant on the naming. But if that's how you want to present it to the dear wife and say, hey, you want to make these for us?
I'm workshopping it.
I mean, it's fine with me.
We're all about pumpkin spice stuff. What my wife has made so far, and my daughter, they made them together, were muffins. So they did kind of like a chocolate chip pumpkin muffin, and they did mini muffins. And I mean, those were noshed in like 2 days. We devoured them. So
this is so simple.
Totally
like this is definitely something you can get the little one involved in too.
Yeah. So you mentioned that this is not a decadent dessert, which I enjoy because then you can have a little bit more of it. But what I learned is that Bluebell does make a very decadent ice cream. And I know this is the second or third year they've had it, but we finally got around to getting some of that southern blackberry cobbler. Son, it's tasty. Now, my wife wishes that it had more blackberry flavor in it. And I guess it is kind of lacking. It's a lot of vanilla, but there's so much flavor from the crust of the cobbler in the ice cream that I don't really notice it or care. I think it's a really good one.
I mean, I'm all about cobbler desserts, especially in the summer. So this sounds real good to me, especially berries. I love berries, berry cobblers.
It's tasty. I know it's more of a summer one, so we're working through it. We're gonna knock this out before it gets too cold. I don't think that's gonna be a problem. But
yeah, I mean, we are
that's
still
been
rocking
something I've really liked.
The peanut butter cup and the fudge tracks, just straight up great value brand ice cream, man. It's just a scoop of each. It goes hard. So good. All right. That'll do it for us on the 23 Personnel Podcast. Actually, we got one more score prediction coming in. JP and Shenzhen, hate to say it, 34-20 Cincy. Pink Raider, man. Make sure you get your black gear out for Saturday night for the blackout. 7 p.m. in the LBK. Texas Tech hosting Cincinnati. We'll be back for post-game instant reaction. For Michael, I'm Spencer. Catch you guys next time.
Thank you for listening to the 23 Personnel Podcast. Help us out by subscribing, rating the show, and leaving a review. Follow us on Twitter at 23 Personnel, Spencer at Punt Suck, and Michael at Michael_LBK. Be sure to catch the next episode. And until then, guns up and let the tortillas fly.